All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Dad at Arms channel. I'm your host, Dad at Arms. I also go by Colt. With me today again is my friend Ethan Wilson from the Figure in Question. How's it going, Ethan?
It's going. It's been eventful.
So we're talking, and we're talking today specifically, so you can kind of give an update of what's been happening since the last time we talked.
Yeah.
I think it's, coincidentally, Spector Creative put out a new video about things this morning, so that just kind of made me laugh that that happened. So
Yeah.
um, I guess it's a good time to update.
To jump back in, yeah. Yeah. No, we had talked about doing kind of a follow-up, and I don't know if I was expecting it to happen quite this fast.
Yeah.
Or to have quite as much to talk about in it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'm gonna try to be a little peppier and a little higher energy this time, by the way, because I made the mistake of reading the comments last time, and
Gotcha.
apparently I'm boring. So I'm very sorry to everyone who found me boring last time.
How
One of
how
one
dare
of
you?
How dare I? One of the comments said I was putting you to sleep.
Ah.
So I'm sorry.
Well, from
I
my
try to
end,
be
I,
kind
I
of
didn't fall asleep when we were interviewing last time. I actually found it, pretty fascinating hearing the whole story. So
yeah. I try to be kind of
maybe I have, there's the resting bitch face. Maybe I just
right.
have,
Well,
and I
it's
mean,
like kind
we're
of just
both dads. I think
I
I'm
keep it a
constantly
low energy
tired.
most of the
So
time. Right,
yeah,
right. I keep it low. I think I'm kind of, and I've always been kind of lax, like with how I'm always kind of fairly laid back. In high school, I had a girl tell me that I reminded her of Ben Stein.
ah,
And
that's a
she didn't mean it
compliment.
as an insult. It was she's like, no, it's like a distinctive vocal pattern, Bueller. I used to take attendance. No, I didn't take attendance. But I used to ask people if they had dry eyes.
There
I
you
didn't
go.
do that.
There you go.
We're both economists. I think that's the thing. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, I'm happy. Uh, I'm all caffeinated and excited.
There you go.
Um, yeah. So I'm also going to try to not flip my hair out of my face because, again, reading the comments, actually, I think my absolute favorite comment coming out of the last one was, or directed at me was 1994 called and wants its hair back. I wasn't even mad, I was like, no, you know what? Good,
Why
good
not?
burn.
The
You
90s were
got me.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
So,
good.
that's my hair. It's like a reverse mullet. It's a party up front and business in the back. Uh, anyway, yeah. So Spector, right? That's where we are. So yeah, a bunch has happened, but also it feels like nothing's happened. I don't know. It's like we went around in a circle. A lot of it happened. Like I think like a lot of stuff happened between when we recorded the last interview and when it went live,
Yeah.
which is crazy because I was like, I didn't even get to talk about the stuff that's going to happen right before the video goes out.
Hmm.
Because right before the video went up was when Scott put out his community post about the end of his channel.
Okay.
So he put out this very long post where he talked about the fact that this was probably going to be, I think the best description I read of this post was somebody who said, so Scott made his teen girl leaving Facebook post. Because it kind of was, it's him talking about that this is probably his last day to access the channel, and that there's nothing to do. It was like one paragraph of like, this is my last day and thank you for everybody who viewed and all this and the great things we accomplished here, and then it's like 10 paragraphs addressed to me, like specifically it's to Ethan, so of course I read it because it was to me. It was
Sure.
weird that it was publicly to me, but everybody else is reading. And I think it was marked to me, but I don't know if it was really for me, because it was a lot of the same stuff that he's been kind of spouting since the beginning. So it was a lot of like, I'll do anything to get my channel back. I'll remove whatever you want me to remove. I'll do whatever I have to. I particularly enjoyed that he said that the only reason he took my photos was because he just wanted good photos for his videos,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting coming from the guy that spent 2 months talking about how my photos have no value
Well,
and aren't.
I think in his new video he describes them as very generic.
He legally generic.
Mm-hmm.
He describes them as legally generic, which I don't believe generic is a legal term, but I didn't consult with Scott's lawyer, so
Right.
yeah, no.
Jumping in on that point, he did make a lot of comments about how his lawyer was sending you correspondence.
Yes, so in the wrap up,
Has that.
to date, I have received no actual correspondence from any lawyers representing Scott.
Okay.
So if he does have lawyers representing them, they're not doing a very good job of contacting me. So, yeah, and that was in the farewell post as well.
Yeah.
His lawyers, his attorneys had reached out to me, and I wasn't responding.
Right.
Well,
did you check your spam folder? Maybe that's
I did.
where it went.
I did, because I did double check. I was like, maybe I did. I even checked like all my old emails too. Like, like my email addresses that I don't check now. It's like, oh, my email address I set up when I was 12. Let me see if Scott's got that one. But yeah, no, nothing from the lawyers. Despite the fact that they said he also claimed to have called me.
Okay.
I mean, admittedly, on that one, I'm really bad about answering phone calls. I'm a millennial. We don't answer the phone if we're not expecting someone to call us.
Sure.
So, but I don't have any calls from people that would have been Scott. I assume he would have left a voicemail or something. I would hope.
I'm Gen X, and so I swing back and forth between just answer the phone when it rings to,
right.
Well, if it's important, they'll leave a voicemail.
So I'm very much if it's important to leave a voicemail. Very much me. But I'll do, I don't know, like I also exist in that weird spot where I'm like, because of the type of millennial I am, I'm like, well, if it's a number, I might like Google the phone number and see if I can find information out on it. Say, is this somebody important? Let me see,
Yeah.
So yeah, he claimed to have called me, claimed his attorneys contacted me. He said he would, again, but doubling down on the whole, I'll do anything, I'll do. But also, like, it's very weird because he's just like giving out the wrong information again, and it's very strange because this is in a statement that's like supposedly addressed to me, and I'm like, Scott, I'm the person that knows you're lying about this. Why, like he's over here, he's saying that 104 claims, and I'm like,
right,
I know how many claims I made.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why, and YouTube, and he has this whole thing about, and YouTube sided with me on 101 of them, and I'm like, again, I know how YouTube's process went. I know where the whole thing went. YouTube didn't side with anybody because that's not how YouTube's copyright system works. Like, they don't take sides. So, anyway, he's got that whole thing. The crazy part is that he's got this statement, and then he edits the statement after the fact. So it's been up for like 2-3 hours, and he edits the statement to change all of his things where he said, I'll remove any photos you want me to remove, to add his extra, like, provided you have the copyright filing and you can present me the proof that you. So it's like, so you're making this plea to me because your channel is supposed to be deleted, but then you're already going back on your word before I've even started talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird move, So I'm like, I don't know. And he's left me in a position, because of the blackmail accusations and the harassment accusations. I'm like, I can't talk to you, Scott. Like, I can't interact with you because you've made it difficult.
And I think that's important for people to understand. I want to kind of focus on that a little bit. He's made these public accusations, and you can find these in his videos, on his Twitter posts, on his community page. All of this. He clearly, says that you're blackmailing him, that you're holding his channel hostage, things like that. Now, it's at the point where, like you said, you're not in a position to work with him, because he's not communicating in good faith.
Right.
And
And
from a legal standpoint, it gets tricky,
right.
because
When somebody makes an accusation of, I mean, so blackmail, for instance, is a federal crime.
right,
If somebody accuses you of a federal crime, you have to limit your interactions with them. You have to do everything in your power to, make sure that nothing could be misconstrued.
hmm
It drastically changed the way that I could talk. I could do anything with him, because the thing is that if he's accused me of blackmail, I can't have any interaction with him that could even remotely be perceived as me asking a favor of him, as
right,
me needing, I can no longer say, here's what it would take for me to trust you. Here's what it would take for me to work with you. I can't say these things because he's thrown blackmail out there. And so
and
any
and not only that, he's also telling you that his lawyers are trying to
right,
communicate with you. And
right.
so
He's telling me
at
how he's
that
telling
point,
me
yeah, he's indicating that this is now a legal situation.
if he's saying that his attorneys are attempting to reach out to me, then from a legal standpoint, I'm really only supposed to I'm only supposed to talk with his attorneys, or I have to get my own attorneys to talk to his attorneys, and we stop
Right,
talking entirely.
right, exactly.
Um, so yeah,
And
I mean
now,
that
and now we, and we can give him the benefit of the doubt, to where, using a term like blackmail or holding something hostage, it could be just, being dramatic,
right.
but
There's a
but you can't take that chance.
I can't take that chance, and also he's doubled down on it.
Yes.
It's not, he didn't just say it one time.
hmm
He said it a lot of times, and he said it over a span of time. He's still putting out videos where he throws these words around
Right.
currently. So I'm like, and again, I haven't directly interacted with the guy in what, a month and a half at this point.
hmm
So, that's where we're at. He's made it so I can't, I can't. But he puts out this public plea to me to give him his channel back. And I'm like, I can't, you know, um, just because the faith's not there.
Right. Right.
I can't trust him. I attempted to work with him, and then he didn't want to work with me, and
Yeah.
so, and now he's going so far as to say that I didn't even, I mean, he's changed the narrative of our communications to say that I just stopped talking to him. Which, I mean, I guess I kind of did, but I stopped talking to him when he did his little victory lap.
Right.
At which point I was like, okay. And again, that even then I had intended to reach back out to him to have a kind of a follow up, to have a wrap up, to sort of say, this is what's going on, Scott. Here's why when I reinstated the original 30 with YouTube, I did intend to email Scott and say, here's why I had to do it, Scott, because you told me you wouldn't work with me, and so I had to get a second opinion. I had to go to YouTube. I had to bring that up to them. But again, before I had the chance to respond to him, he had gone public on Twitter with the blackmail accusation. And then I'm like, well, again, that's where we get into the whole legal side of it, where I'm like, well, now I don't feel I can talk to you about this. I don't feel any comment I can make is going to be taken in good faith. Is going to be, I don't want what I'm saying has got to be misconstrued.
Right.
Right.
Or used against you.
Right. And part of it's also like, if he genuinely does believe I'm blackmailing him, then I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to make him think that more.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so he kind of escalated it at that point.
hmm
I just kept escalating it. And so then yeah, we get the wrap up post. He says the whole thing about, trying to get me to help him and to drop the claims, but then he edits the post, and so he's already changing what he's offering me. He's already changing his story. I'm like, he
which
has the whole
which reinforces, this idea that he's not operating in good faith.
right. I mean, if you're already editing your statements, to change your requirements of me, then that's the public facing side. That's public.
Right. Right.
How is that going to go in private conversation when
Right.
there isn't everybody keeping an eye on you?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what happened the first time. The second that he felt like he had the upper hand and that no one was really paying attention, he started, changing his requirements with me. So yeah, I mean, he left me in a position where I didn't feel like I could work with him anymore. And, it was unfortunate because it did mean that his channel was in jeopardy of being deleted because I couldn't help him. So yeah, because and his whole thing is that, it was his channel would be deleted at midnight. And so people went crazy in the comment sections on both sides. It was honestly pretty heated between, the people that were against Scott and people that were against me. And it's great because, we had our, in the interview last time, you'd asked me about like the contact I'd had and the harassment I'd had. And I'd said, well, no one made any threats, which apparently some people, I don't know if they took it as a challenge. So I did get some in the comments. Again, internet tough guys, so I didn't really pay much mind to it. I know one guy said that I needed an ass whooping. Oh, sorry, an $$ S whooping, and he volunteered.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, I just don't really find it that threatening if you can't say the word ass. I feel like you can't. Right, you can't really kick my ass if you can't say ass. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm still waiting, watching the door, waiting for this guy to show up and kick my $$ S. But again, it's fairly toothless in general. And I think a lot of people were really jumping in on it because it was this whole like, it's getting deleted at midnight. So, have fun with it. Go crazy. So, midnight rolled around and Scott's channel was still there. You're like, okay, I thought it was getting deleted at midnight. So there was all these theories. Some people thought he just made it up for attention. My initial thought was just that he got the numbers wrong. Because he had said it was Thursday into Friday. With the midnight Thursday into Friday was when it was going to get deleted, and that didn't track with the numbers that I had based on when I knew that the strikes had hit.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm pretty sure it should have been Friday into Saturday at midnight. So that was my initial thought. I was like, he got the day off wrong. Right? He was off by 1 day.
Yeah, he was a day ahead.
He was a day ahead. But it ended up actually being that he was able to successfully get his counter notifications resubmitted. Because YouTube had rejected at least one of them that I know of initially, because I had received it and then gotten a follow-up from YouTube saying, no, that one's not going to go through. But I guess this is where there's the lawyers come up again. Because I got the 3 counter notifications, and this time the phrasing on the statement was very different. It was all very on behalf of Scott Neitlich, writing on behalf and citing specific legal doctrine, and because it was still signed Scott, so I don't know if the lawyer just used Scott's name or if he. I don't know.
I wonder if that's the legal correspondence that he's talking about. Where
maybe,
but that doesn't seem very direct.
It must have only been submitted that Friday though, because I mean, it was like very down to the wire.
And I'm sure explain to me a little bit about the counter notifications. Is it time
so
stamped?
It's not. I don't believe it's time stamped because and it would only be notified, like it would only be time stamped for when I got the notice.
Okay.
So YouTube doesn't like track when it was submitted. They track when they
It's
approved it.
resolved.
So I don't know if, I mean, I guess it is possible the lawyer might have, well, whoever submitted it might have submitted it earlier in the process, and it just took a long time for YouTube to let it go through.
Okay.
I don't know. But again, even then, if he's the whole Ethan's ducking my lawyers, like the earliest he would have submitted those counter notifications was at the beginning of that week, which I think is before or is after he had made some of his posts about lawyers. So I think I don't remember exactly when all of his posts went up. He did a lot of posting.
And I'm also thinking as far as legal correspondence goes, I'm pretty sure that has to happen through certified mail.
I'm pretty sure it either has to happen through certified mail or some sort of verified like email address or something.
Right.
I think they have to. Well, I think they have to hit you with both.
Yeah.
So they can hit you with like an email or something as a direct form of contact, like to be like quickly, like here's the contact. But they are required to do some sort of certified mail or something like that.
Right.
Because there's got to be like there's got to be a guaranteed way of verifying.
Right. There's got to be a paper trail, basically.
Yeah. You have to show that you did due diligence to inform someone of any legal action against them.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think a YouTube counter notification would be sufficient to contact me.
Right. Well, it's definitely not direct.
No,
and
because it's all going through YouTube.
And I've signed legal documents online before, but it's always done. You get the link in your email,
right? Because it has to
takes you to a certified document signing service.
Exactly. It's got to go through some authorized,
right?
Authenticated system.
So it's a multi-step process. So you would know.
And an email that I got from YouTube forwarding a message that somebody submitted is not going to be
right. That's not it.
So I mean, again, I'm not saying it's not Scott's attorney. Maybe it is Scott. Maybe Scott's attorney is writing from Scott's account. It would be a strange way of going about it, but it's not impossible.
Yeah.
It could be Scott's attorney. It could be a friend of Scott's. It could be, I don't know, maybe it's Scott himself, but he just did a little bit more reading. It doesn't seem to be someone who specializes in copyright law because the sections that they were citing didn't really line up with what they were saying they meant.
Yeah.
So I think whoever wrote it didn't necessarily have a firm handle on it, but whatever the case, the thing about the counter notifications process in general is what's kind of entertained me a little bit about Scott's handling of the counter notifications is he puts a lot of work into the statements that go with the counter notifications. When in fact YouTube's requirements for the counter notification statement are very, very bare minimum. I mean, they pretty much just want you to say, here's the reason I think that I should be allowed to use it. And in Scott's case, he's saying it's fair use. I mean, I think Scott's statement could be as simple as, hey, I don't think that this is right because I think my use of the work is covered by fair use, and I'm willing to go to court to attest that.
Yeah.
So like, that's really all he needs to say. So all of this legal press, because YouTube's not a legal, like they don't deal in legal affairs.
Right.
Their whole stance on it is we give everyone access to the platform, and if there's problems with the platform from a legal standpoint, we give you abilities to take that outside of YouTube.
Okay.
So if we've got content up that you think is your copyright, we'll take it down if you think it's your copyright because that's DMCA. We're abiding by that. It's like it's called safe harbor. So YouTube is they're essentially the neutral territory. So that they're abiding by the DMCA setup, which means that if you say that's my work and I don't want it up, they take it down based on DMCA. But the person who put it up is allowed to say, no, I'm allowed to use that.
Okay.
And then YouTube goes, okay, well, if YouTube pretty much they have a checklist of here's the reasons why you would be allowed to use it. If you agree it's one of these reasons, you can submit a counter notification, and then we hand that over to the claimant, and they have to decide whether they want to take legal action.
Right.
And
So
take it, but
it's basically YouTube telling both parties to take it outside.
Yeah, take it outside. That's really it, because they're like, we can't resolve this. We don't have, that's not our ball.
Right.
So that's what they do. So the whole thing is, but Scott had the counter notifications. I think the reason, and again, this is speculating on my part, I don't know for sure. I think the reason that his initial counter notifications may not have gone through is that he said in them that YouTube had sided with him. Like, he had statements about YouTube siding with him on previous ones.
Okay.
And I think YouTube may have themselves gone, you can't say that we sided with you, because that makes us not a neutral party, and we are a neutral party in this.
Right.
So I think what may have let the counter notifications go back through was just simply that he didn't include that phrasing in the second round.
Okay.
That would be my guess. Again, that's total speculation on my part. Whatever the case, he got the counter notifications in. His channel's not getting deleted.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's still up. But this led to, despite the fact that he'd gotten the counter notifications in, there's still the post where he said that being deleted at midnight. Everyone's still talking on it. Everyone's commenting about the fact that the channel's still there. So I guess that leaves him in a very awkward position in terms of, what to do. So he makes, well, I struggle talking about the next part, because I think I may understand it, but I also don't. It's one of those, like, my mind has trouble wrapping around whether or not I'm right.
Okay.
Because I just don't think I should be right. He makes a post that just says, it says that YouTube, it's essentially a post saying that we cannot post this post on this account because the user's account is marked for termination, and then signed YouTube. He makes this post on his community tab.
Okay.
But it's just signed YouTube. YouTube doesn't make posts on people on people's accounts like that. Like, they don't make those like, if there was a statement like that, it wouldn't be posted publicly on the account. That would be a message that, I guess, Scott would get directly if he was trying to put something up.
Right.
So the fact that he posts this is very strange, and there's no commentary with it or anything. So it's not like he's like, look what I got when I tried to put up a video. It's just that statement. And so the part of me what I really struggle with on this and trying to wrap my head around it is asking myself, does Scott genuinely expect people to believe that this is YouTube? That this is actually a statement from YouTube and not just him? Like,
so is it written out, or is it like a screenshot?
It is written out.
Okay.
It is written out. It is just a text post. It's very strange. Let me get the exact wording here, because it's
okay.
It's weird.
Because I don't want to sound dismissive, but it almost sounds like a kid taking a note from his mom to school to get him out of gym class, but he signed his mom's name on the note he wrote. Did I lose you?
We back?
I think we're back.
Yeah, I think for a second there. Okay. Yeah. So the statement, right, is we are sorry, but you are unable to create new posts at this time due to a pending channel termination. Please see your channel dashboard for more information. YouTube team. That is a text post. It's just written out. It's not a screenshot. It's not.
And there's no. He doesn't say anything about that. That's just there.
It's just that post, like just those words. There's nothing additional. And I'm like, but again, it's like, it's back to like, but YouTube doesn't make posts on people's accounts like that.
Yeah, not for everybody to see.
Like there's no precedent. There's no instances of something like this occurring that I know of, or that anyone else knows of. I mean, one of the first comments on it is literally someone going, "That's not how YouTube works, Scott." So, but it's like, again, so I'm left with like, does Scott genuinely expect people to believe that YouTube made this post? Or is Scott actually attempting to impersonate YouTube here? I don't know. Like, and again, like everything about my logical brain is like, no, it can't be that. There has to be some other explanation, but I have not been able to bring anything else to mind. And Scott has not commented on what this post was.
Okay.
At all.
That is strange.
So it's like, it's very weird. And so it just sort of is like, why this post? Why did this go up? Why not just let it? And it feels like it's like, well, because he had to put something up because his channel hadn't gone away.
Yeah, his channel was still there.
But I don't know, and so
right.
That goes up on YouTube.
Yeah, and it doesn't do us any good to speculate about what that means.
No, it's just weird.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it's just weird. And it's just another oddity in the whole situation about just like what's going on and what is he, what's his argument, there's just so many oddities to how Scott talks about the whole situation.
Yeah.
And so that's on YouTube. He goes back to Twitter again. And he makes another tweet where he talks about that he's working with YouTube and trying every angle and pleading his case, and very much like he's like, there's always the pleading the case thing where it's like, Scott, that's not how it works. Because like I just was talking about with the counter notification process, it's pretty dumb simple. You give them the information, you make your statement, and they take it, and either they accept or they don't. But there's not really, it's an automated system. It's not, it's not like you're like you shouldn't be like having a conversation with somebody about it.
Right.
And I can't imagine that Scott's account is going to warrant special dispensation,
Mm-hmm.
Nor do I think that someone is actually looking at his statements, largely because I've seen his previous statements, and if somebody were actually looking at them, I feel like they'd go, "Hey, Scott, you can't say that."
Yeah.
So his whole thing is he's trying to work with YouTube, but then he gets back to his like classic Scott's kind of like, there's more at play here, and what was the last phrase was Spector Creative always has an ace.
What's the ace?
So I don't know if it's something in particular or if it's just, so he's because Scott's obsessed with the spade.
Right, it's his logo, right?
He had it on his logo, so he had it on Mighty Spector, and now it's his logo for Spector Creative. It's a spade. It's a single spade, so it's an ace, right? It's right there in the logo. Spector Creative always has an ace. Maybe. I don't know.
It just kind of sounds like more branding.
It does.
It's a marketing.
So it leads me to ask the question: how long do you think Scott has been waiting to use that phrase?
Yeah.
How long? Like he came up, he's like, "Ooh, this is a good one." I think this predates me. Like
it sounds very cool.
Yeah, right. It's a cool guy move. Like Spector Creative always got an ace. So yeah, but as far as whether he's got an ace in actuality, I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's the lawyer I haven't heard from, but
yeah, it almost sounds just kind of like his sign off, like that's his flourish.
Right, Spector Creative, but he's never said it before, so it confused me. But yeah, but it does kind of have the same like kind of general vibe as back when he was at Mattel, and it was, you know, his whole keep reading the bios thing. You know, every time he got a question he didn't have an answer to, he'd be like, keep reading the bios. And so it has like the same, like, you know, like, what's going on with you, Scott? He's like, Spector Creator's always got an ace.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
but yeah.
So where does that put you now? Is there more after this to where you are now?
Yeah. So
Okay.
a little bit more. I had been really, really against taking any sort of legal action because I didn't see it as, you know, I didn't want it to be this big a deal. But a lot of people I was talking to about the situation were bringing up, you know, the validity of a lot of my case and some very good points, and pointed me in the direction of some good resources to kind of address the counter notifications, because I've got the 3 counter notifications, and they say I have to take some sort of legal action or the videos will be reinstated. So I did look into that, and I'm pursuing some options there.
Okay.
I have contacted the CCB, which is the Copyright Claims Board, which is kind of like small claims court but for copyright. So I've contacted them. I've submitted my information and gone to the U.S. Copyright Office and opened the discussion about you know, filing some of my copyrights officially.
Okay.
Because it offers me additional protections.
Right.
And I have submitted the information I got to YouTube, and they accepted it. So I am in. Essentially, I'm in the waiting pattern of I need now at this time. I'm waiting for the next step with the CCB.
Okay.
So as it stands right now, the videos are down and will not be going back up at the end of the 10-day period like they would have. They are just down until there is a resolution with the CCB.
And his channel is still active as of now, correct?
So his channel is active now because the deal with the whole setup is essentially, again, it's YouTube taking a neutral party stance. So they remove the videos because I have supplied them with proof that I am going forward with legal action. But until legal action is resolved, they do not count as strikes against Scott's channel.
Okay.
So that is how Scott regained access to his channel.
Okay.
Because per YouTube's setup, there are no strikes currently against him, at least from me. I don't know about other people.
Okay. And like, you know, kind of like what we mentioned at the top of the interview, Scott has put out a video this morning.
Yes.
Today's the 23rd. This video probably won't make it to YouTube until tomorrow morning, but it's the 23rd as we're talking right now. So
yeah,
Scott put out a new video about 7-8 minutes long where he's talking about people who weaponize YouTube against creators. I watched it, and it was, you know, if I'm being perfectly honest, it was hard to follow what his intention was and what his point was.
Yeah.
Because in the video, he's admitting that the pictures he used are yours.
Right. So this has been the problem I've run into with Scott kind of the entire time I've been trying to work through this, is he kind of keeps changing the story. Even in short spans of time, you know, when I first was dealing with him, when he first reached out to me via email, he said that, I didn't realize I was using your work. Which is one thing, and it's like, okay,
Sure.
81 instances is a lot, but okay. Let's try to work with that. But then as we moved forward, it sort of turned into, well, I don't even know that this is your work all of a sudden. And you're like, okay, but you said you didn't know it was my work before. Now it's not my work. And then there was a statement for a while there where he was trying to claim that some of it was his work, which I'm like, okay.
And on that note, your website, the figure in question, you started that in 2013, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Just judging off your first post on that website.
Yeah. No, launched in October 2013.
So you can provide the context and the evidence that what pictures are yours because they exist on your website.
They're on my website, and in fact, because my site's hosted by WordPress, the way WordPress's image uploading system works, it actually embeds the date the photo was uploaded in the URL. And then granted, you're going to find that I did actually go back and re-upload a good chunk of my photos from earlier posts because I, learned better tips to compress them, and I started putting watermarks on everything. And so there are some that are going to look like, oh, wow, this went up, 4 years after the post it's attached to, but they're still
earlier
in the URL. It's still earlier than what Scott. I mean, Scott started his channel in 2020.
Right.
So
when he left Mattel, right?
So it was a little while after he left Mattel. He left Mattel in, what was that, 2014, 2015?
Something like that, yeah.
He did Mattel, and then I think he was at Jack Pacific, and then Jada, and then Loot Crate, I think, and then maybe Entertainment Earth for a bit, and then he bounced around a bit.
Okay.
He launched the YouTube channel. It was like a year or two after he launched Spector Creative, like the consultancy business. As I know, he launched the YouTube channel during the pandemic, I think. So a lot of people,
Sure.
So yeah, but you can check on my site. The URL has the date it was uploaded, embedded in it, so that I can show that I uploaded this back. And some of these photos, it's like the one that he really likes to bring up is the Iceman photo, which is one of the handful of photos still on my site that does not have a watermark.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one that he used one of those photos in his video today.
That's the one he used in his video today, the Iceman photo.
And that's one that he altered.
He stuck,
and he said that he altered it.
So the alteration,
and that alteration against something.
It's a legal gray area.
I don't understand what he's saying.
His whole thing is that fair use either states that there has to be some sort of educational purpose, or there has to be some form of transformative work done to it.
Okay.
So I think what he was aiming for was trying to claim that he did something transformative to the photo.
Okay.
Legal gray area as to whether what he did would count as transformative, because all he did was throw it on a different background and then throw a small little like clip art unicorn in front of it, which is not, that's not transformative. That's just throwing extra stuff in front of it.
That's making a collage.
That would be like me being like, this collage I made on my wall when I was in high school is totally copyright me. Like, not so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Iceman photo is the one that he had in there. The Iceman photo is also the one he used in his Twitter post where he said, here's an example of Ethan's work. The Iceman photo is also the one that he emailed me to say, a bunch of your photos don't have watermarks. 2 of my photos didn't have watermarks.
Okay.
I know exactly which 2. It was Iceman, and there was a Black Series Biker Scout photo.
Okay.
Because they're both from the same period of time. There is a 2-month period in 2014 on my site where I have not re-uploaded all of those photos to include, because I'd started doing the watermarks around like my 500th review, because I realized I needed to. So the first year and some change of my site, the images do not have watermarks. Over time, I have gone back and slowly replaced them with ones that do have watermarks, but it's 1,000 and some photos, and I'm still doing a review every day. So
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to go back and re-upload that many photos. I just haven't kept up with it. So I've done it incrementally, but there is, like I said, about a 2-month stretch in 2014. So these two came from that.
Okay.
Again, if you look at the URL to where they are linked on my site, it still clearly states when they were photographed or when they were uploaded.
When they were uploaded, yeah.
Which is in 2014, which is at least 6 years before Scott used. I think Scott's earliest uses of any of my stuff, I think, is in 2021. So
okay, so 7 years.
6-7 years at least before Scott used them.
Okay. And so I think at this point, it's understood and openly admitted, by Scott himself, that the pictures are indeed yours.
Right. So now
what he's arguing is
that
the interpretation of a copyright or
so
trademark.
There's the 1-2 kind of, it's the interpretation of the trade or the trademark copyright, because he interchanges them all the time. And then it's also sort of how am I supposed to know it's yours? Like how is he supposed to know? And that's where that kind of coming back to in the kind of backhanded compliment insult towards my work comes in. Where he's like, well, how am I supposed to know? Because it's just a figure in front of my background. Which is, it's like, it's not like, if you're a content creator, it is your job to do due diligence. If you're using somebody else's work, to make sure that you're allowed to use that work.
Right. It's the burden of proof.
And that's on you. So his whole business, and like, the thing is also, he's not using thumbnail quality versions of my photos. He's using full resolution versions of my photos. So he can't just be like right-clicking, saving on Google image search. That means he's clicking on the image and going to my site and saving it that way.
Right.
So he has to
where they're coming from.
He has to know exactly what the URL is at some point. He has to be clicking on it and seeing, I mean, in Google Images even lists, the figure in question under any photos that come from my site.
It has a little button that says visit site,
Yeah, as the visit site. And then, they've even got the little disclaimer about like may not, may be subject to copyright. Like, it says right there. So yeah, I mean, it is on Scott as the content creator there to know where he's pulling his resources from.
Right.
It doesn't matter if he thinks that my photos aren't up to snuff or aren't worthy of a copyright. That's not really his decision to make.
Right. Subjectivity doesn't matter in this case, because he is objectively using those photos, regardless of whether he thinks they're good or not.
Yeah. Well, and it's always very entertaining to see that angle. The photos aren't very good. And I'm like, well, then why are you using them? If you don't think they're very good, then don't use them. And
that doesn't excuse you from using them without permission.
Right.
The quality,
Yeah. And the latest bit with he's got a whole angle about like that. Oh, because the newest, because my last 3 strikes were all from newer videos.
Okay.
Or 2 of them are from newer videos that went up after our initial contact. And his thing in the video is bringing up like, well, I said I wouldn't use your work anymore, but I created these videos way before you contacted me, and how was I supposed to know that your stuff was in them? Because it's your work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, well, how was I supposed to know? I'm like, because you took my photos. You took my photos. They're not yours. And like part of it kind of comes down to he's like, well, how am I supposed to sift through all of it? And I'm like, Scott, I mean, essentially your argument here is it boils down to, well, I take photos from a lot of people without crediting them. How am I supposed to know which ones are yours?
And I don't want to do the work of
And
verifying.
I don't want to do the work. He talks about how 80% of his income comes from this channel,
Hmm.
but he's not willing to do bare minimum to prevent this channel
Right.
that supposedly brings him 80% of his income from being taken down. It's such a, I don't know. I feel like I would, well, I feel like I would just not use other people's work without crediting it. But if I were approached with something like this, I would try to do better,
Hmm.
especially because it's so little. Even if he doesn't want to edit the photos, I've made it clear, in my correspondences with him that I am willing to accept, just put my link in the description.
And and that goes back to even if these videos he prepared 30 days in advance to go up on YouTube at whatever, you can go into your YouTube dashboard and
Yeah,
stop a video from going up, edit the description of a video.
right,
I mean, I do it. There's times where I
right,
forget to put somebody I've interviewed, I forget to put their Twitter handle in the description.
right. So
I can go in
it's
whenever I want and do that.
and just
It's not a
edit.
difficult process. You just edit.
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, even something, it's like if you don't want to go in and edit the description, something as simple as comment
All
on the video, you know,
yeah,
or comment on the video and just pin the comment to the top.
yeah,
Oh, here, photo credit, boom, okay,
yeah.
pin it.
Photos courtesy of dot dot dot.
Right. Yeah. It's just it's it's bare minimum.
Hmm.
And it's not, and again, like a lot of people are, why am I so protective of my work? It's not just my work. Like I'm not just thinking about me. It's also like Scott's taking a lot of people's work
Hmm.
and not crediting them, and he needs to do better. If he's intending to use these videos the way he seems to be, if he wants genuinely, his whole thing about, oh, it's an educational channel. It's like part of educating is letting people know where the information comes from.
Yeah, citing the
You
sources.
know, you got to cite your sources. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to let people know, hey, this is, crack open a textbook, and back of the textbook, it's got the glossary and the appendix and it had all sorts of, like, here's where we got all our information.
Well,
Wikipedia has its references at the bottom.
and at the very least, it seems counter to what he's trying to do. If these are educational videos and he's trying to educate fans and people on the content of his videos,
Mm-hmm.
but he's showing a clear lack of being willing to learn himself.
Right. And
Because I would
improve
assume,
in
yeah, I would want to give him the benefit of the doubt that, okay, he didn't know that these photos were yours. He
right.
does now.
Right.
It's as
Yeah.
simple as saying, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me fix that.
Let me fix that. There was, and I think I may have talked about this in the last interview, but there was a point after the channel got taken down the first time when Scott
Mhm.
contacted me. There was a point where we could have resolved it without the blow up, without anybody having to look like the bad guy. All it would have taken is if Scott had really genuinely been willing to work with me and just credit me for my work. I could have given him his channel back. He could have credited me for my work. He could have gone out and said, "Oh, it was a mix-up. Everything's good."
Yeah, he fixed it.
You know, realized I inadvertently didn't properly credit my sources. Um, I'll do better going forward. And hey, we worked it out. Everything's good. No problems. I would have been happy to likewise come out and be like, hey, Scott, made it good. You know, we
It's over.
talked it over again. It was a mix up. No big deal. Um, but that's not what happened.
Right.
And again, there's like a lot of like discussion about, well, I overreacted, or I was petty, with my decision to reach out to Scott, not reach out to Scott first, but reach out to YouTube first. Um, you know, tattletale.
Right.
Um, you know, I like it's one of those things where I could see the point on that. And I honestly would say, if there were one thing I could change about this whole endeavor, I would have reached out to Scott first. I would have said, hey, you're using my work. What can we do? Um, I was honestly, I was motivated by being really upset
Hmm.
that I mean, again, 81 instances is a lot of instances. Um, but again, in retrospect, I said, well, I could have reached out to him. I genuinely don't think it would have made a difference, um, based on my interactions with him, based on the stories I've heard from a few other people who tried to reach out to him since this whole thing started, who said that he just deleted their comments or just didn't respond to them. Um, but I wish I had done it for my sake,
Yeah.
to say, hey, okay, I did this. So I'm willing to say, you know what, I shouldn't have. Maybe I shouldn't have jumped straight to that. I don't think it makes me a bad person that I did. I think I can admit, it would have gone a little better, I think, for me,
Right.
if I'd at least given him the chance. But I still did try to give him a chance, and that was part of what influenced, the whole thing about why try to work with him later, was because I realized I didn't reach out to him.
Yeah.
I should at least give him the opportunity. So it was about giving him the opportunity to work with me, and
Which,
then he.
yeah. And for just to make things clear, you did give him an opportunity to work together to resolve this
Yeah,
after the initial route you took with, going to YouTube.
right. I went to YouTube first, yes. But once Scott reached out to me, even after, and it is worth noting, this is after the first video from the other YouTuber
Hmm.
that really, really misdirected some stuff.
Right.
Even after that, I said, okay, Scott, I'm going to try to work with you. I want to, and I had everybody's like, you made demands. I asked him to clarify a situation that had gotten really blown out of proportion,
Hmm.
because I couldn't clarify it. I couldn't come out and say, no, 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 that's not it, because nobody knows me,
Right.
in this situation. Um, so I did need Scott to clarify it, because, and it's not me saying that Scott intentionally misled people, but he had provided information that led to misinformation
Right.
that got twisted. Whether it was his intent or not, it eventually became twisted, and so he had to be the one to say, "Oh, actually, no, 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 it's not that. It's this."
Right.
Um, and that's why I asked what I did. But once he was willing to work with me, I was willing to work with him. Um, I rescinded all of my claims, which I did not have to do. I mean, I could have, if I wanted to be more duplicitous, I could have, I had 30 claims in, I could have rescinded 28 of them and left
Hmm.
2 of them up and been like, ooh, don't cross me. But I didn't do that. I just rescinded all 30 and said, okay. Um, I did. I really tried to work with him. And I offered him, I even was willing to offer him kind of dispensation on it. I was willing to kind of compromise on some stuff. I had initially wanted my work removed entirely, but I had said, well, if you just want to credit me with a link, that's fine. I had asked him to replace the ones where he cut off my watermark with versions that had my watermark intact.
Right.
But again, even that point, if he had said it's going to be really difficult, I would have been like, okay, just the link is probably fine. Just to make sure people know whose work it is.
Right.
I was willing to compromise to work with him a little bit, and I put my hurt feelings aside. I said, you know what? The fact that I'm upset about how much of my work he used and how long he's been using my work, that's not relevant to fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't help us fix it. I'll work with him. But then he didn't want to do that. There's a lot of discussion on Scott's side of Scott is justified in doing all of these things because we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But then the flip side is that I don't get the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
That everything I did was intentionally to take him down, and it was part of some grand scheme. I just wanted my work taken down. And so now he's talking now in his most recent video, he's painting it like, he won the day.
Yeah.
Like I keep losing. And I'm like, I haven't lost. And anything, even without strikes being applied to his channel, I got what I wanted, which was that my work was taken down.
Mm-hmm.
That, the thing is, I'm like, the strikes are ultimately inconsequential to the whole process, but I just want my work credited or removed. It's not going to be credited, but Scott wants, from my side of it, this is how it looks anyway, Scott wants to win.
Yeah.
He wants to prove he wants to prove that he should be allowed to use my work as much as he wants, and he shouldn't have to credit me for it. And
from what he's stated, his narrative is that he's the good guy content creator who
right.
was unfairly targeted for a misunderstanding.
Right.
And even if it was a misunderstanding, he has the right to use these images because of his interpretation of fair use policies.
Yeah. Right. That seems to be,
and that's what he's been publicly stating.
Yeah, that he should be allowed to keep using it because his interpretation of fair use says that he should, and I think part of it is that he kind of wants to have his cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be able to say legally I owe you nothing, but he wants to also be able to say, but I'm just a really nice guy. I'm a good person. I'm a good guy.
Right.
You can't be the good guy and also be like, but legally I'm allowed to mistreat people.
Yeah.
And again, that's where it kind of comes into a whole or introspective look at things where I'm like, I do think of myself as, I try to think of myself as being a nice person, but I will admit that, yeah, my first interaction with Scott was not the nice guy path.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was justified in what I did, but I won't sit there and say I'm a nice guy because I, submitted the copyright claims on 30 days. Like, no, it wasn't really the nice guy way. I was upset.
Yeah.
I had a right to be, but I'm willing to say, yeah, it's not a nice guy move. But he's doing stuff that's not very nice, but still kind of going, but I'm a nice guy. It's like, I don't think you can be both. Either you're the nice guy who wants to work with people, or you're holding to the letter of the law.
Yeah.
I don't think you can have it both ways. And also, he doesn't seem to fully understand the letter of the law either. So
right.
it further muddies.
Well, and that goes back to how he interchanges copyright and trademark, where
right.
The basic definition is copyright exists as soon as the photo is taken.
Right.
Trademark is the legal process of getting that photo trademarked.
Right. Well, and so specifically, trademarks generally apply to an idea or a concept or the trademark is a very specific thing.
Okay.
Like a trademark is not like you can't like a trademark cannot be applied to just anything. So like for instance, like let's talk, the DC Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's logo is a trademark. Like it's a trademark. They own the trademark to his emblem.
Yeah.
They own a copyright to Superman. There's different, or they own a copyright to his appearances,
right,
in the comics. But there are different aspects of that. So it's there are two things that can be intermingled, but are not necessarily, and are not by default.
Yeah.
And yeah, trademark is a much more involved process than copyright. Copyright is almost always presumed.
Right.
Trademark is something you very definitely have to register and protect. And like that's one of the things about trademark is like trademarks can go away if something becomes too publicly used. You look at stuff like Kleenex and Q-tips and things that are also trademark names, but they get used so interchangeably that they're effectively not.
Right.
Because they have to be, it becomes common vernacular.
Right.
The trademark can lapse. But yeah, they're different things. And Scott doesn't seem to understand what they are specifically. And I don't know the I don't know the specifics of trademark and copyright myself, but I don't claim to. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on them. I just know that they're not the same thing.
Right. So, from where you're at now, going forward, what happens next?
Well, I wait to find out what the resolution is on, stuff I've taken before the CCB. If they find in my favor, I guess that goes back to YouTube, and those videos probably will be marked with strikes, and then Scott's channel, I guess, goes down. I don't know.
So as of now, we just kind of wait and see what happens.
It's waiting. I mean, and I'm sure that he will. As I said, he can kind of post freely at this time,
right,
about the situation, which he has. Again, the first thing he did. I mean, my information, my evidence for the counter notifications was accepted this morning, and Scott put up a video 8 a.m. and that was the video. So he certainly jumped right on getting his side of the story out there. I don't know how much more he's going to do. Because honestly, what is there to talk about?
Yeah.
I do feel like the discussion, has kind of gotten pretty set.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, we've reached a point where we're not even debating about whether they're my photos or not. Like everyone seems to agree, oh yeah, those are Ethan's photos. But now the discussion is, well, is Scott allowed to use them? Am I allowed to hold a copyright for them? Am I allowed to request that they not be used?
Mm-hmm.
What is fair use?
Yeah.
It would be my hope that Scott's not going to use my work anymore. But honestly, Scott not using my work is kind of a band-aid on a much larger problem, which is that Scott
uses
probably will. Yeah, he will probably continue to use a lot of other people's work, which is, unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that, obviously, because I'm just me.
Yeah. So I guess, with where we're at now, and this is, kind of talking to people who are watching,
Yeah.
this interview now. Um, I think both sides of the story have been adequately covered as much as they can.
Yeah.
So it's in people's hands to decide one way or the other, but where they land on the side of it. Um, as far as Scott is involved or any other people that he reaches out to or interacts with, makes a video with, I just want to make it very clear that, I don't condone going after people in the comments, and I don't condone insults. Like I said in our last interview, just keep it nice. We don't need
There's no
to.
reason. There's no reason for it not to be.
Yeah.
I think that's, yeah. There's just no reason for it to be uncivil.
Yeah. There's a difference between spirited debate and, as you said, being uncivil
Yeah.
and inflammatory. So let's
Yeah.
avoid that. That's my plea to whoever
Just keep it
feels
cool.
one way or the other about this issue. So,
Right. Right.
um, I want to, before we close, I want to just, thank you for joining me again.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and I was curious about the updates. I wanted to hear, where things were at now. Is there anything that you would like to add before we close out? Anything we didn't mention?
Um. I mean, it's. Again, I think I pretty much covered it. I just, I continue to be kind of. I want it to be done, but I also don't want to be a pushover, right?
Right.
Um, but I'm not trying to. My aim in all of this has never been to take Scott down. My aim in all of this was never to make this some big public feud,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want it to be that, and I continue to not want it to be that. Even with everything that's been going back and forth, I don't see this as, I'm not going to be getting in the trenches, on this one,
Okay.
because that's not what I'm here for, you know. Um, so if I'm not responding directly to people, it's not because I'm afraid or because it's not it wasn't my goal to duke it out with people and to I don't
And
really get into the
and I think and I think at this point it's not in your best interest to do so.
it's not, but I mean the entire time I've just kind of been like I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
to blow it up, but I have gone some places and I have offered up my information where I can and where in places that I think are a little bit more geared towards my setup, like here,
Mm-hmm.
but I do just want to kind of, again, it gets back to the keeping it simple.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in duking it. People like I need to have a debate with Scott. I'm not interested in having a debate with Scott, and it's not because I disrespect his opinions or because I think that it's because I don't think there's a debate to be had really
Right.
between the two of us. He has his points, I have my points. We're not going to change each other's minds on where we stand. But that's that.
Yeah.
I have taken the action I have taken. He has taken the action he has taken, and it will resolve one way or the other. And then hopefully we can both move on with our lives.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for joining me, and I guess we could leave it at that. We'll close things out.
Cool.
Thank you to everybody who has watched and listened, and we will see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.